there was definitely a point last year where I was just like, man, I feel like now is probably the right time to do this or hit this and make it happen. And there's no real way to know, what's right or what's wrong. But I mean, at this point, whether it's late, on time, whatever, at this point it feels right. And I don't think I think at this point, whether it happened last year, this time, whatever, I think in a weird way, the onus was on me to basically prove that I could stay afloat and that I could stay as big and as popular as I have for the last year. And I think that that was really, it's weird. I don't know what it is about me, and maybe it's with everybody, or maybe it's just particularly with me because of how quickly and how fast things happened and picked up, and the popularity grew last year. I think there was a lot of thought of like, is this going to last? Is this just a flash in the pan? And you could hear
Mhm.
even in some of the promos that people cut, oh, flash in the pan, flavor of the month, blah 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 blah. And I think that maybe there was some genuine concern about that, to the point where it was like, all right, well, if we pull the trigger on this guy and then, things flounder, then what do we do? Well, guess what? Nothing ever flounders. As a matter of fact, yeah, things are going to ebb and flow and things kind of go up and they go down. But I think that as things kind of cooled off a little bit into the winter, early 2024, all of a sudden, boom, we get into the spring and the summer. Things are super, super bigger and on track more than they've been.
Yeah, I think I remember being at Money in the Bank in London, super over. Everyone thought that might be one for you.
Sure.
Uh, and there's been plenty of kind of instances where you've remained red hot during that period. Is Triple H kind of saying to you at those points, keep doing what you're doing, man, it's coming?
Um, Kind of. I mean, because I mean, there's not really. I don't really ask a whole lot all that often. Like, hey, what are we doing? Where are we going? Because for the most part, I know how much that stuff can change.
Yeah.
Plans can always change at any point in time. Whether it's if you plan something next week, it could change between now and next week. Definitely, if you plan something for 6 months out, it can absolutely change. So for a lot of times, for me, it's just kind of showing up and making sure that I'm doing what is needed from me, and really what's needed from me from myself.
Mm.
Because a lot of times this business, I am my own business, if that makes sense. So I have to tend to my own business and make sure that I'm doing things that not only work for the company and everybody else, but what works for me. And so in that regard, yeah, I show up, I do my thing, and I can't really worry about, and I never worried about it before. Oh, hey, are they going to make sure that everything's going to work out for me? Is this going to, hey, I should check in and be like, hey, when's this going to happen? I'm just going to show up. I'm going to do my thing. I'm going to kick ass. I'm going to do things as well as I can, which has been pretty damn good. And at that point, just make sure that everything. I've never been a politician. Maybe I need to learn to do that because I've never been very good at that. I kind of just show up and do my thing. But um, yeah, there was never really that. I mean, maybe some reassurances here and there just to make sure, because I'm sure that he can tell, and I've said as much before, where I'm kind of always looking over my shoulder anyway, thinking, somebody's going to try and bop me in the back of the head and take this whole thing away. Um, but I think that's just me being a paranoid wrestler. So I don't know if that'll ever go away. It doesn't matter if I'm at the top of the mountain at some point with millions and millions of dollars. I don't think that that'll ever go away.
Well, I think it's working out for you. That's fair to say, and everything you said makes sense. A quick word of working with Logan Paul. Like, did you have expectations going into that? Obviously, he's fairly new to the business, but has taken to it extremely well.
Sure.
What was that like to to work a program with him?
Well, I mean, you're talking about somebody who is dynamic in a lot of ways. He's a hell of an athlete. At the same time, yeah, I mean, not super experienced in the business, but experienced enough to be able to not just make things work and be presentable, but to put on a hell of a show. I mean, he's worked with some of the best guys there. Roman, Seth, Cody, Miz, now me, like all these guys, and every single time has been banger, as the kids say. So it's all been good. And like I said, the,
Yeah.
the guy's a hell of an athlete, and to go into your own hometown and get booed out of the building, my God, that is That's a hell of a talent there, if you want to call it that.
I guess though, the question remains: you must be a better representative for the US title than Logan Paul.
Yeah, look, but better subjective, but yeah, I'd say better. Some people might not say that. Who knows? I don't want to speak for everybody. But the way it goes down is, yeah, I'm clearly going to be around a lot more. I'm going to be available a lot more for a lot more challenges. So with that being the case, yeah, I would imagine that you'll see the U.S. title showing its face and being defended probably a good bit more than it has been in the recent past.
I like it. I'm glad you brought up Roman as well, because obviously a lot of us were clamoring for you to get your, world title shot or world title program in WWE, and we got that at the back end of last year and the Rumble this year. Um, it must have been something you'd thought about for a long time. Now that you've had it and you were in that moment, like, how do you look back on being able to work with Roman at that time?
That's a hell of a spot to be in, and definitely not a spot that I expected myself to be in at that point. I mean, because you're talking maybe exactly a year from the time that LA Knight reared his face on SmackDown. Because what
Mm.
was it? Probably October of 2022 that I had shown up in that iteration, and then what November? I mean, very beginning of November 2023. Now being in the WWE Championship match in Saudi Arabia, headlining the event. So that's a pretty crazy jump. That's a pretty crazy climb in a very short amount of time. So there was a lot of adjustments that needed to be made in that. There was definitely some, we'll say, battling thoughts inside my head between like, hey, do I belong here? And hell yeah, you belong here. So there's a
Yeah.
lot of kind of stuff because it all happens so quick, so fast and so much. Where yeah, I mean, there's definitely adjustment period, but I think that now at this point, U.S. Championship, walking in, doing that at SummerSlam, you never know where that could lead. And when you're talking about WWE Championship, World Heavyweight Championship, this and that, this is a hell of a stepping off point to make this stop, pick up the U.S. title, and now there's not that question anymore of is this my spot? Do I belong here? For damn sure, I belong there.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of SummerSlam, I don't know if you've seen this, but Kevin Nash said that you guys had a friendly coming together backstage.
Oh, did he?
He did. He said there's no
Yeah,
heat there.
yeah. No, we. I mean, it's really funny too because no, he came. Oh, puppy's excited over here. Um, yeah, he came up. I was sitting in catering. I think I was sitting there talking to a couple of guys, and he came up, and I kind of felt this hand on my back or whatever, and he just kind of said hello, and we sat there, we're talking for a minute, and then he was just asking about the match and this, that, whatever, and everything was cool and honky dory. I am a mirror in a lot of ways, to where I kind of just will give you back whatever you give me. So to me, um, we could talk trash and whatever and everything that goes on between what he says on the podcast and what I say here and there. Um, at that point, it could go either way. Now, if he comes in and he's talking, craziness and whatever, then yeah, I'd have probably been responsive in that regard. But he was a sweetheart and I was a sweetheart right back. So that's pretty much how and what it was.
That sounds cool. That's cool. Just a couple more before I know I need to let you go, brother. But I loved the Rumble four-way. Working with Orton and Roman and AJ. Obviously we got to you and AJ at Mania as
Sorry,
well,
I've got
which
a
was.
yippy little puppy over here. Reese, you got to calm down over there.
Oh, Matt, don't worry. I've got a dog. Yeah, I know how it goes. Um, but how was that Rumble like working with so much talent in that match? Big time matchup too, but like being able to get in there with Randy. Like, did you feel like working with those guys for an extended period of time, like you did?
Yeah.
Did you learn some stuff? Did was it cool kind of getting closer to those as talents and friends? I'm sure.
Well, I mean, you get back to talking about me saying the whole thing about belonging or not or whatever. I think that was probably one of the main times where I was just like, oh hell yeah, I belong, in the sense of like, here's the one sore thumb of the group, because you've got Roman, been there forever. Randy, who's really been there forever. AJ, who's been there forever. And then there's this one outlier new guy, this LA Knight guy, who is kind of the sore thumb of the group. And how's he going to hold up with these guys? And I think if you go back and you watch that match, man, I think I shined like hell in that match. So,
Good.
and in that regard, I think that there was no question at all in mind of, well, hell yeah, there is no any question beyond that. Does this guy does he belong? Yeah, I think it's pretty clean and obvious at that point. So I think if there's anything that I learned in that place, it was just learning that I've kind of cemented my position. Here we go again. I'm the dog whisperer. I have to do the calming here. But anyway, yeah, I think I've cemented my position kind of as a made man, so to speak, even though I'm still looking over my shoulder at every turn.
Yeah, speaking of which, to end on here, I think we've seen reports going around that perhaps you've signed a new deal with WWE.
Lies, complete the fifth.
Lies. Well, I mean, the only thing I was ending.
My contract actually ended yesterday, and so
You're gone.
I'm gonna leave with the title now.
This is your exit interview. Oh,
yeah, I'll see you guys. It was nice knowing you.
The only thing I was going to ask you around that was just, I know from when we spoke previously, like you saying before, you had to take jobs for the money or contracts for the money back in the day when you were trying to make it. So like, yeah, I guess how much would it mean to you?
Well, not anymore, because now they're paying me $8 trillion. So here I am.
8 trillion.
8 trillion, highest paid ever. How about that? That might be more than the
that's a hell of a number.
No, the national debt's definitely way more than that.
But it must still feel good to arrive where you are now, and those days of kind of worrying so much about trying to get to the big dance, as it were, and now the hard work, you can start to see the fruits of that labor.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, because I mean the first 10 years of my career was just starving artist, so to speak. And for the second 10 years, doing much better. But wow, I hadn't even thought about that. It's really changed because now let's be honest. Let me just level with you. I've been doing this for a little while. Entering now, I guess, my third decade, which is insanity to say. But I've been doing this for 21 years now, and it seems like each decade has had a different theme. The first decade was me being broke as hell. The second decade was me being nice and comfortable, and now the third decade is starting out trillionaire, $8 trillion.
Listen, that's a hell of a payday, and well deserved.
Thank you, sir.
Well deserved. On that note, I will let you go, my friend. I really appreciate the time as usual. And listen, can't wait to see you with that US title, man.
Hey, man. You're talking about new US champ here. It's a big deal. And I'll see you guys soon.